Hi, I'm Ginger Gentile, the Deputy Executive Director of the National Parents Organization. And we had a little technical difficulty with the audio. I hope it's back online. So I'm just waiting for somebody to join and to confirm with me. Rita, do I have audio? Can you hear me? I'm just checking to make sure that people can hear the audio and then we can get started. Yes, okay. Thank you so much. Yay. I did something very silly. I hit a button that muted the microphone by accident and I didn't realize it. So now that we're all on board, thank you so much for waiting. I'm so happy to be here. So my name is Ginger Gentile. I am the Deputy Executive Director of the National Parents Organization. Thank you for all of those who have joined. And the way this works is that I will be talking for a little bit, but I also want to take questions and get feedback. It's also a great time to give comments and share experiences, focusing on what we can do to change the system. So this isn't a place to share personal stories. This is about how we can work together for systematic change. And what's very exciting is to ask a question. All you have to do is type into the little box below. Like I'm going to type in the webpage, nationalparentsorganization.org, and then I will try to get to your questions as soon as we can. So I see a lot of supporters of Erasing Family on here. I also see some supporters of National Parents Organization. And our goal with this call is just to give you an idea of what's in store with the NPO for 2019 and 2020, and hopefully inspire you to either join a chapter of the National Parents Organization in your area, or to start one if you feel inspired to take a step towards legislative change. And also, if you are already in an organization that works on similar issues, to work with us in coalition, because we are stronger together. So I'm just going to get started with an introduction about who I am, then what the NPO is and does, what their mission is, and then finally what the goals are for the NPO this year and next, what some upcoming events are, and then talk a little more about vision, and then start getting into your questions. So feel free to type a question at any time, and I'll get to it as soon as I can. So again, my name is Ginger Gentile, and some of you know me as the director and producer of the film Erasing Family. It's my third feature documentary. It will be released this fall. We're still working on a release date, but it was recently endorsed by the American Psychological Association, and we've been doing private screenings, and feedback has been phenomenal because it shows a new perspective of why creating a healthy alternative to the family court system where parents fight over custody is so vital to prevent trauma in children. And that's because the Erasing Family film tells the story of childhood trauma from children themselves. And we have experts and we have parents, but it's really the kids talking about how they can benefit from shared parenting, how they can benefit from less adversarial family court systems, or even getting divorced out of family court entirely. So we're super excited about that film. And before I worked on the Erasing Family documentary, for about 13 years I lived in Argentina. And the last 4 of those years I worked on a film called Erasing Dad, Borrando Papá, that was released in 2014. And that film focused on the plight of fathers. It dealt a lot with false accusations of domestic abuse and how basically kids were the ones who were suffering from all of this crazy system that instead of helping families, hurt families. Sound familiar? It's a worldwide problem. And after that film was released, Argentina enacted joint custody legislation. So before the film, you couldn't get joint custody in Argentina. It's impossible. And then after the film, it was enacted, and judges started to change decisions. But most importantly, it changed the way society talks about this problem. So instead of being ashamed to say you can't see your kids, you began to, after divorce or separation, you began to see yourselves as victims of institutional violence and something that society had to do to fix this problem. So it wasn't a personal failing. And what was the biggest takeaway from that lesson is we always have to focus on the love we want to give our families and not the hurt that we experience. People have very little sympathy for parents, but they have a lot of sympathy for children. And what's very exciting about, and I see joining National Parents Organization as a compliment to my work with Erasing Family, because Erasing Family, the work was really about talking and healing of trauma, getting the kids' voices heard, and raising awareness. And National Parents Organization presents a vital part of the solution, which is changing how society responds to this issue by creating institutional change and institutional structure to better deal with what happens to kids after their parents separate, divorce, or have never been married, which is becoming more and more of an issue as more and more parents have kids who have never been married or even as a couple. In my mind, if you're a couple or you're married, it's the same thing. As we all know, unfortunately, in the United States, legally, it's not the same, which, you know, to me is crazy. But being an unmarried father, you're really at a disadvantage in the United States legally in a lot of states. So what the NPO has been doing for the past, I think, 20 years of its existence or more, and is doing this year, and I'm going to talk about some of the change, is that the National Parents Organization has the best infrastructure, the largest membership, the most amount of chapters, and the biggest funding of any organization working on this issue. And what the National Parents Organization has is a board of directors filled with amazing people from all walks of life. Some are advocates, some are lawyers, some are academics. And they have a staff, which is me and Liana, based out of Boston, and it might become more in the future. And with that infrastructure, and also people doing research, what they're able to do is produce original research, you know, publicize existing research and thought pieces through their blog, but also have chapters that are working at the grassroots level to educate lawmakers on the need for making default shared parenting after divorce the norm. Now, default shared parenting means that a presumption of 50-50, mom and dad, or dad and mom having equal shared parenting after divorce is the presumption. It's the starting point. I think this is very important. It does not mean that all families are going to split custody exactly 180 days out of the year. It just means there's nothing to fight over because that's the default. And hopefully when there's nothing to fight over, what parents can focus on is what's best for their kids and how that agreement will work out in their lives. Each family is different, but we don't want a judge and adversarial lawyers who charge so much money and like to extend the cases that we all know, deciding this for the families. So this is all about decreasing the adversarial conflict, because what kids do both when they have near equal time with both parents when they are fit. You have to be fit, you have to be healthy, you have to be fit, you have to be able to take care of your kids. That's a non-starter if you're not. But what we're seeing are many fit and capable parents being tortured by the family court system. And what this means is that their children lose out on a parent because they can't see them, or because the parent becomes so damaged by the system that they're not able to be a good, capable parent because they're suffering from PTSD or ongoing trauma. And what that sets the kids up for, we can all imagine. I mean, I'm going to repeat it right now, but they're stressed and they're going to react when they have toxic stress. Not only does it mean they react emotionally and psychologically to this, duh. I think everyone kind of got that one. But we're also finding through research that children also then suffer from poor health outcomes as adults. When they suffer through toxic stress, and this is the ACEs study, I'm going to say this, the acute, I'm typing it down, childhood experience study. Now there's a big horn going off because they really want you to listen. ACEs, and that horn is like representing the stress that the child is under. So when a child is stressed, their body produces cortisol, which breaks down their cells and increases their likelihood of experiencing diabetes, heart disease, risky behaviors such as suicide attempts, and addiction problems. And this is not some crazy woo-woo California thing. This is the Center for Disease, the CDC has done longitudinal studies showing that toxic stress is really harmful into adulthood. But here's the good news. It's not a sentence, because we can reverse these effects through therapeutic intervention, teaching mindfulness. But we can also reverse this by removing the trauma. So if we can have both healthy, fit parents in the kids' lives, they're going to have more support and more love. And the best part, the craziest part, and outgoing board president Ned Holstein used to say this, is that it's free. Shared parenting does not cost a dime. If anything, it saves money because not only are you going to have better health outcomes, but you're going to have less people using the family court system. You're going to have parents getting along. And anything that you invest through parenting classes, mediation, guidance, is going to return to society tenfold or 20-fold by having healthier kids, healthier families, and people not spending their life savings, their kids' inheritances and college funds, if they have them, on the family court system. And if they don't, not being able to access the family court system at all. So now here's the other good news that I want to share with you. We all agree on this. And I think sometimes for people who've been in this movement for a while, we tend to focus on the people who disagree. But polling shows over 70% of Americans support shared parenting in national polls. And more recent state polls show up to 87% support shared parenting. Now think, what do 87% of Americans support right now? Not much. And now if you break it down, that 13% that doesn't support, only 3% says that they're against. The rest are undecided or don't have an opinion. To put this in context, 5% of Americans believe that NASA never landed on the moon. So we should be happy that everybody agrees with us, or pretty much everybody. So if pretty much everybody agrees with us, the research agrees, the people on the street, if you ask them, agree, professionals agree, why isn't this happening? So there's only 2 states in the United States that have default equal shared parenting. One is Arizona, and even there it's more that the judges are interpreting the law in this way, and the other is Kentucky. And Kentucky, under the leadership of Matt Hale and a whole team of wonderful people, passed the first default shared parenting law in the United States, and to date the only one in 2018. That's right, Kentucky is the leader of the United States on the shared parenting issue. You know, I'm saying that because for those of you who are on the coast, the coastal elites, come on, like come on. There's no reason why we can't have at least 45, because there's always one state that's going to say no, 45 states pass these laws in the next 3 to 5 years. Because the only opposition that's out there to this are certain, and not even all, but certain divorce lawyers who are going to lose business on this. And certain professionals. That's it. And we need to embrace that the people who we thought were against this are now coming around. Because in my talk with people in the NPO, people outside the NPO and academics, people who we used to think maybe we're against shared parenting, there's a big generational shift going on, number one. And number two, the research is different. So a lot of people say, well, feminists don't support shared parenting. Well, one, I'm a feminist. Two, pretty much everybody in Hollywood who worked on Erasing Family and supported it would self-identify as a feminist. Whatever that means, Beyonce's a feminist too. You know, so it's a wide term. But that's because when I talk to young women, they say, I didn't have my dad in my life and it was awful. My parents had a messy divorce and they were fighting over custody and it was awful. My boyfriend doesn't talk to his mom and it's awful. My cousin, I don't know where my brother is. I don't know where my sister is. It's been 20 years since I've seen them. So their reaction is an emotional one of a child. And what I found is that for people under, let's say, roughly the age of 35 or 40, the millennials, and by the way, millennials are 38 and under, so we're older than you think. I'm a millennial technically. Shocking, huh? Feel this. They don't need this issue explained. And when I worked with Erasing Family film, I would say it's about a loving, fit parent being erased from their kids' lives by the courts. Oh yeah, I get it. So we are not in a position where we have to explain. And a lot of, I think, activists who've been this and that a while, and I hope this is easy for them to accept that things have changed and we are now able to be on the offensive and start getting stuff done, because the hard work, the foundation has been laid already by the activists and the academics who have come before us and who are still there working on this. We have the easy job. Everybody's convinced now. So we just have the hard work of making sure that we do our job of presenting this issue in a loving, caring, friendly, and approachable way. That's easy. That's a solvable problem. Because sometimes people come to you and you say, wow, that's a problem you can't solve, you know. They say, we need $1 billion to do this. Oof, that's hard. You know, and we can think of some problems in the news right now that you're like, oh, that's going to be a tough one to solve. We have to stop making it hard on ourselves. We need to embrace that everybody is on board. And if somebody is pro-traumatizing children, we don't have to respond to that even. Let them dig their own hole by saying, yay, we want traumatized, broken kids. So we don't need to respond to those arguments. Or I will lose money if the system changes and we install a system that helps parents who are having problems resolve them, as opposed to pitting them against each other, to spend years and money fighting over the kids while the kids become traumatized. Let them argue that. And they say this is one-size-fits-all cookie cutter. Well, there's a lot of stuff that's one-size-fits-all cookie cutter. I didn't get to opt out of the SATs when I was in high school, even though it's a stupid test. There's just a lot of stuff that, you know, we don't have, you know, that we do. Child support guidelines are cookie cutter. You know, sentencing guidelines, if you are arrested, are cookie cutter. There's a lot of stuff that's cookie cutter. And it's a starting point, but it will reduce the conflict. So, and I've been talking, I've been on board with the NPO only since mid-June, so very little time, and talking with membership, talking with other people who are also activists, everybody is ready and hungry to embrace this new messaging of talking about the positives, talking about who's for this, and really getting stuff done. And I'm also talking to a lot of children of divorce like myself, who we also want to solve this and solve this quickly, because as one woman said, I want to get this solved in 5 years so I can do something else with my life. Amen to that, right? We want to get this solved, we want to get this solved quickly. And we can do that by being strategic, making things easier, not harder for ourselves, and following the examples of others who have come before us, learning from mistakes. And like I always say, think like a startup. If something doesn't work, you change it, you pivot, you test your messaging. It's not working, you change it. You try it out, not working, change it. We have to be quick and nimble. So what this means is obviously being friendly and approachable. We're always talking about expanding love. And also, as I always say to the parents, when you present yourself in public, this isn't a therapy session. You're not there to advocate or talk about your case. You're there for the greater good. And what everyone needs to say when they talk to you is, what a tragedy that parent can't see their kid. That kid is missing out on a great parent. Not, they seem kind of angry and distraught. There must be a reason why they can't see their kid and they're not telling me. So that always has to be our goal whenever we communicate this message. And also to that effect, we need to bring more children into this movement, adult children who can talk about how shared parenting benefited them or how they were hurt by not having shared parenting. And it's something that we can all get on board. The right, the left, liberals, conservatives, Democrats, Republicans, feminists, men's rights, you know, people like cats, people like dogs, we can all get on board on this. This is like a fabulous big issue that everybody agrees with. So let's start acting like it, right? And in that, so what we are doing, the NPO, is that we are putting together a roadmap for success. And what this is going to do is we're going to take the lessons of one of our most successful affiliates in Kentucky, as well as other affiliates, and my conversations with people, put them all together in one big, easy-to-read package. So it's not a big manual. It's going to be a few pages long, and then have, you know, sample emails, how to run meetings, how to talk to legislators. And it's all going to be basically NPO in a box, ready for you if you are an affiliate. And one thing that we are also going to start doing at NPO is not only giving our affiliates even more support and guidance on how to be successful in this, But we're also, and training on how to talk to the media, we're also vetting all of our affiliates. So if you want access to this roadmap, if you have the time and commitment to start a chapter, be part of the NPO, it's very important to us that we talk to you, vet with you, and that you sign our code of conduct. And the code of conduct, nothing out of this world. You can't support a political candidate. You can't do actual lobbying as part of the NPO. You can only advocate for shared parenting research, but you can't say vote for this candidate, don't vote for this candidate. And you always have to be talking about this issue with kindness, with respect, being professional, which we are already doing, but it's very important that we're all on the same page with this. So we want to get new membership into our affiliates, and it's very important that the affiliates represent the demographics of their state. So most states in the nation are 50% women, 50% men, last time I checked. There are some exceptions, I think, in the oil fields of North Dakota, and in certain parts of Silicon Valley, there's more men than women. But for the most part, we need our membership to reflect that. And also, what I learned in Erasing Families is that more and more women, more and more moms are losing custody of their kids. So this is not a men's rights or father rights issue. It's not a mom's rights issue. This is a children's rights issue. This is a human rights issue. Not only that, but we also want to make sure that it reflects the demographic outlook of each state. Each state is different. In some states you'll have high Latino populations, like in California. In some states you'll have high African American populations. In some states you'll have certain ethnic groups that are much higher. In some states you will have a large religious community that also has to be included. In some states you have large Native American populations. And what's important is to be able to talk to representatives about you know, when you talk to a state representative or when you talk to an academic, it's great if someone from that community can also talk to them, because while the issues are the same, they're also different for different communities. The Native American community has been dealing with the removal of their children from their homes for the past 150 years. And this is so I've heard from people in New Mexico that having a person from the Native American tribes who talks to a lawmaker from that tribes is super important, because they're able to understand this issue. Don Saxon just asked, type questions where? Where you just type them, Don. Type them in and I'll read them, but I'm not at questions yet. Then what's also going to happen is Don Hubin, who's interim chair of NPO, and others have been hard at work on redoing the National Parents Organization report card. The last one was done in 2014. And you can look up on what the grade your state got. Now, these grades are based on the laws, not outcomes. So hypothetically, you could have a very bad law, but if the judges give everybody shared parenting, that won't be reflected in the grade. As you can guess, if you look at the last report card that came out in 2014, not one state got an A, some got Fs, and most states got Ds and low Cs. It's not a good report card. And the report card, we are going to announce it on September 17th. In a big press conference in New York City. And we want to get national attention. Last time the report card came out, it got huge national attention. It was picked up in USA Today and a lot of other publications, because it's just something so easy to show how far states are behind on this. So you have something that everybody wants that doesn't cost money. So why is Kentucky and Arizona the only states with these laws? Could it be special interests? Could it be legislative gridlock? That's what we want to draw attention to. And the report card is such an easy way to talk about this, because your state gets a grade and it's very easy for people to understand. So it takes a complex issue, makes it super simple. So that's going to be September 17th. And we're looking to get some star power at that press conference. That's what I'm working on with our PR firm. And we'll also be doing a special screening of Erasing Family that same day. And the Erasing Family film really, it drives the emotional message home of what the NPO is trying to accomplish. And the NPO is also going to be releasing more research on child support guidelines, because as a lot of you know, child support guidelines can be used to erase a loving, fit parent and create more conflict over parenting time, because in a lot of jurisdictions, the more parenting time you get, the more child support you get. So that's something that, you know, the NPO also wants to work on. And before I take questions, I just want to close with making this about how we can make divorce, separation, and children of unmarried couples have healthier outcomes is really the message we want to drive. And you could have great laws, but if they're not enforced, they're meaningless. So we at the same time have to educate the judicial system about this, the mental health community about this, schools about this, and society about how important it is to make it so parents get help and they're not dragged through the system when they can't get along. And that always has to be the message. So I'm going to start taking questions. So I am going to go through this one by one. And there's 55 comments. So this is a lot. Okay. So Gordon Bauer said the opposing arguments have been it's because we don't want to pay child support and domestic violence. So good news on that case. I mean, first of all, the messaging should never be I shouldn't pay child support. Children need support. They need financial and emotional support from both parents. Now, how that actually looks, and I always say this, sometimes it's above my pay grade because I'm not an academic and a researcher. But the message can never be we need to get rid of child support. No, we need to make sure that child support goes to the child, because right now states take lots of fees and fines from parents, spend a ton of money putting parents in jail who can't pay because they're too poor. And that money could be better spent, number one. Number two, the guidelines have to be fair and really look at how both parents are contributing to the welfare of the child. And number three, which I would say, is that when parents are too poor to pay support or neither is working, we as society have to step in and make sure that child is cared for. That's my own viewpoint. But I always say, you know, you can't just take away the support and be like, well, you know, how's the kid gonna, you know, eat now? So I think, you know, I'm just trying to read the comments because there's so many, I'm trying to get through on them. And the other is about domestic violence. So really good news there. Domestic violence, people who want to prevent domestic violence advocates are the natural allies on this, because shared parenting laws always state not in the case of domestic violence. And we are going to be sharing some interesting case studies out of Arizona on how they were able to get the domestic violence community to be the co-sponsor of their bill. And what was interesting and sad is that the legislators actually had more of a problem with the domestic violence wording of the bill than the shared parenting wording. But there's no reason why we can't work together, and that is what is happening right now. So a few exciting things. The shared parenting conference that happens every year is going to happen in Vancouver in May, and it's all about ending family violence and bringing domestic violence advocates or anti-domestic violence advocates into this field. And there's already been so many interesting conversations. And the NPO is also going to release some very interesting findings soon about how shared parenting decreases incidence of domestic violence. So that argument with domestic violence, that's going to go away very quickly, because people are going to see that how do you prevent domestic violence? You prevent conflict. And if there's no conflict post-divorce, you're going to prevent that violence. And also the system, instead of listening to parents argue over who gets Tuesday and Thursday night, can focus on these extreme cases that need serious intervention. So there's no conflict. And I encourage all people who are working on this issue to stop, and I'm going to scream if I hear it, that domestic violence are not in agreement. We need to talk to people because we all want the same thing: healthy, safe homes for children. And we need to listen to each other, talk to each other, right? See how we can get on the same page. So that issue, that's going to be resolved the next, like crazy by next June. Because there are people who are working on this behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, changes on its way. And I think it could also just be generational, new research, and understanding that that domestic violence is not a gender issue, okay? A lot of things are happening. So get ready. And I always tell people, you need the domestic violence community to co-sponsor your bills. That's the goal. And you can get there because that's what happened in Arizona. And we're going to lay this out in our roadmap on how to get this done for our affiliates. Okay. So I'm going to start reading the comments. I'm going to do the best I can with getting through them. So I think it might actually be easier to start at the end and then go back. So Adam Jones, how do we best educate people about the benefits of shared parenting? That's a great question, Adam. Yay! So Adam, are you the NPO? Okay. So I just asked Adam if he's in the NPO and where he's based out of. Okay. So how do we best educate them? So NPO just set up an amazing program. So one thing you can do is you can host a screening of a racing family, and NPO actually has matching funds for its affiliates if they want to host a screening for their state legislators. We have a half-hour version, screenings for bar associations, lawyers, judges, law schools, psychology schools, universities. That's where the kids are who are erased from their parents, but also the professionals of tomorrow, police departments, high schools, you name it. You can host as many screenings as you want. And best of all, if you can get more than 100 people under the age of 26 there, we'll refund you the entire screening fee because we want young people to see this film. And that's a lecture class at a university, so not that hard, people. So that's a great way because you'll hit people in their hearts. You can also have legal symposiums where you can bring in speakers over Skype. And I often joke, well, how do you get judges and lawyers to show up to a legal symposium? Two ways. Get them continuing educational credits, and also you can ask them to speak because lawyers and judges love to hear themselves talk, and you can even give them an award because they love awards. And a very nice lunch or dinner at a nice place. So it'll be a little planning, it'll be a little money, but that's how you can bring this research to them because a lot of them don't know. And a lot of them say, we know we have a problem in our family courts, how do we fix it? Don't know how to fix it. So we can start saying, triaging the high conflict cases so they have help and support, get low cost, effective in-house mediation that people don't have to pay for. It has to be effective. So many people have had bad mediation stories, but when collaborative law and mediation can be very effective in high conflict cases. And also I would say fighting over custody has to stop. The fact that you can go into court and fight over custody, this is crazy. You have a judge who doesn't know you deciding cases. Not based on science, not based on research. You have no right to attorney. We have to rethink and overhaul the entire system. But the first step to doing that is default shared parenting. It says no parent is better. Because right now parents are paying crazy amounts of money for child custody evaluations. And the custody evaluation might say something like, mom should get the kid 70% of the time, dad 30%. Or dad should get the kid 80%, mom 20%. And what a psychologist explained to me is either parents fit and can have the kid, or they ain't fit because they're abusive. So there's no like, well, who should get them on week? It's like, no, either you share custody, and like I said, it might not be exactly 180 days because, you know, of where parents live, schooling, work schedules, whatever. Let them work that out in a non-conflict situation, okay? But having a judge who doesn't know you decide the fate of your family, that's even an option is kind of insane if you think about it, right? So we need to get society to help people because divorce is no longer this rare thing. Over half of all marriages end in divorce, we know that. So we need to prepare stuff. And, you know, this could also help prevent divorces as well. So, you know, stay tuned for that. But I think that's the way we educate people is also just saying, you know, asking people logical questions. Do you think it's better for a child to have 2 fit parents in their life or only 1? Most people would say 2. Do you think it's better for children to know their family history, have access to their extended families, family trees, know both of their traditions and cultures, or just 1? Do you think it's better for parents to fight over custody and spend their children's inheritance college funds if they have it, or for a system to encourage them to get along? I think by making this simpler, we can educate people easier. Okay. So someone asked, how can you be an affiliate of NPO? Just go to the NPO website, nationalparentsorganization.org, and there's a form that says start an affiliate. You might see that there's an affiliate already in your state. If so, contact the chair of that state. And we will, and always feel free to reach out to us, of course, as well. And if you are interested in starting an affiliate, we will vet you and and if we think that you're a good fit to run it, we can onboard you. And also what some people are doing too are saying, look, I don't want to be the leader, I don't want to be the chair, but I want to start a chapter. So what we do is say, okay, we're going to make you the chair, and one of your first acts is going to be to find your replacement. So it's totally fine, if that's the way you want to go. Because, and this is important, an NPO chapter that's successful, like what happened in Kentucky, is not one person, it's a group of people. So you have a chair, you have a vice chair, but you also have a women's outreach coordinator, a legal coordinator, different communities, so let's say an African American community outreach coordinator, a legislative coordinator. You have a whole team plus volunteers working on this. So it's not one person who does everything, it's one person who can assemble a team and make it work, and then communicate with the national, so then everybody can work together on this. I hope that answered your question. So Adam Jones, Oregon, yay, we need people in Oregon. April Kirk, how do we prevent attorneys from encouraging parents to go forward with horrible child custody battles instead of mediating for shared custody? So that's not an easy answer. I would say having legal symposiums and bringing the film erasing family to them, giving them research in an easy to read, accessible way. So, the abstracts of the papers, that's important. We also, NPO is going to start producing more graphics and research that's more accessible for people on this. But the important thing is to let parents know, you don't need an attorney. You don't need to go to family court. You can settle this on your own. And the first thing an attorney says is, stop talking to the other party. It's like, dude, you've been married to that person for 15 years. You're going to keep talking, So having a mediator or going to collaborative law where you can settle this in days, not years, that's the way to go. Okay. So Janine Fala, father advocacy orgs are little value to low-income or fathers or even moderate services means. What the bulk of fathers need are services. So I really want the fathers advocacy movement to be more service-oriented. It'll really improve our image to the public. So first of all, Janine, that's an interesting point. National Parents Organization, and it says it in the name, it's not a fathers advocacy group. We're a group of parents who are concerned about the well-being of children post-divorce. So I can't speak to fathers advocacy, and it would be great if there were more services for all families in transition. I think, it's something that chapters can think about, having a legal aid night, but, I'm going to give you a horrible example. So this is a horrible, disgusting example. When I was in Argentina, I had to film a documentary on dog walkers. I was paid to do it. And there was a huge stray dog population in Argentina. Huge, stray dogs everywhere, really out of control. And what a lot of people would do who cared about animals is that they would spend a lot of time and money and they would build shelters for animals. And these shelters would cost lots of money. Like, people were spending the equivalent of like $30,000 a month to house 100 dogs and hire people and pay for dog food. And there was never enough shelters. The shelters would always be full of dogs. And they were always sad about the dogs they couldn't take in these horrible cases. They needed to be raising money. And then one town decided that they would offer free spay and neutering to anybody who brought in a dog or cat. And what they found was, in about a year, the stray dog population went down by 90%. You didn't have to spray all the dogs, but just by getting most of them sprayed, it went down. So that's a horrible, gross example, okay? But if we change the system, the idea is that you won't need this intense legal help on these cases. So I think, we need to help parents understand what they're getting into, hopefully prevent them from going the legal route before they start, helping them get out, helping them to mediate, helping them to calm the waters, helping them to forgive their ex so they can be there with their children. So as we say, they can be loved and not always talking about how they're wrong. Getting out of this victim mentality and healing themselves is so important. And that's also important to be a good advocate. I want to share a conversation I had today with a gentleman who called me about the blue and was like, "What you doing with NPO? What's going on?" And I told him, good news, we are going to expand on successes, and we want to get pretty much every state to have shared parenting legislation and get this problem solved in the next 5 years. He goes, "I don't think you can do it." And I said, "Well, I think we can. I think we're in the position to do this." And not just NPO, there's tons of other people and other organizations working on this. And also there's a lot of people like myself who are children of divorce, and maybe because we don't have the emotional burden of parents who can't see their kids, we're maybe in a different position. And like I said, we're tired of this and we want this problem solved. Boom, we're going to figure it out. And instead of saying, "That's great," he said, "You lost me," and hung up on me. And I think we need to start embracing change and reform is coming. Society's in a different place than it was 5, 10, 20 years ago, for good or for bad. And by being smart, by looking at what worked and what didn't, we can build on successes and we can accelerate change. And we also need to start thinking too that even with all these changes, we're never going to have 100% perfect outcomes. But right now, it's polling done by Jennifer Harman out of Colorado State University says that 22 million parents report being alienated from their kids in the US alone. 22 million. If we in the next 5 years can get that down to 10 million, that would be a huge victory. And it might never be zero, but if we can decrease these numbers, we can be very successful. And default shared parenting, I think, is one of the most effective solutions to this problem. So let's see what else. Gina Falls, I like to see NPO make connections to local fatherhood initiatives, fatherhood programs, many like the one I do. Grant writing fundraising for are very advocacy oriented because they're very aware of the barriers non-custodial fathers face. I like to see more service oriented approach with fatherhood orgs really help. Also, will anyone from NPO be the Las Vegas convention? I hope to say hi and hello to anyone that's coming that way. I'm not sure if anyone will be there. We definitely think that we wish the best of luck at the convention. And as I said, we definitely want to think about providing guidance to people, but that's not the mission of the NPO, which is more research and policy oriented. Though rest assured, Gina, we are in touch with many local fatherhood initiatives, and we also want to reach out to more motherhood initiatives as well, because there's more and more moms who've lost custody. So we definitely see this as a child's rights issue, and it just shows how insane the beast of family court is, because in the end it's not about gender, it's about money, as a lot of moms who can't see their kids will attest. Harry Fletcher, how does NPO address civil court, particularly all the total scumbag divorce attorneys who manipulate us and prey on vulnerable parents? So I think the question is, first of all, as advocates, we should be careful about, and maybe you're not an advocate, so it's totally okay using words like scumbag. Let's talk about how the system sets up problems. And it's not about laying blame on a parent or even a person. It's about saying the system is broken and not working. And like we said, it's making it so civil court is not needed because we have a default option and people are working towards that, and society says this is the best option. I filmed part of a racing family in Sweden. 60% of parents in Sweden split custody equally after divorce. Sweden is actually not a default 50-50 country. Custody actually automatically goes to the mom in Sweden. So you might be saying, okay, and that's because society says, first of all, they say from the beginning, dads get equal parental leave to maternal leave, number one. So you say, and they make them take it, or you lose the time. But also society says, this is what's best for kids, and you got to get along with the other parent and make it work eventually the best you can. So of course you're going to have parental alienation happening in Sweden, but it's much less because society says, this has to stay out of court, and only 2% of divorcing parents in Sweden go to court. April Cook, couldn't agree more. Adults divorce one another, children do not. We have to promote loving our children more than hating our exes. Amen. So Holly Dresden, please mention the date and place again in September and how can I help? So Holly, on September 17th, we are going to be announcing the shared parenting report card grades. I definitely want to talk to people like Thomas Fiddler and the Fathers' Rights Movement. I'm going to do that after the convention, but we want actions in all states where NPO chapters and allied organizations can present report cards to their state legislatures, and if they're not in session, do it some way symbolically, get local media, present it to local courthouses. So we're really trying to onboard as many affiliates as we can before September 17th so they can promote. Let's find this. Adam Jones said, so exciting to see an updated report card coming out. Yes. Gordon Bauer, the messaging is important. Couldn't agree more. Sometimes it's not what we're saying, it's how we say it and who's saying it. Smiling people, and Matt Hale in Kentucky really drove this home. In every picture you see of Matt Hale talking about legislation, he's there, women are there, and they're all there with their kids. And thanking people for their time, thanking them for being part of the reform, not focusing on blame. And I also did a great blog article with Robert Samry of CAFE, which is the Canadian Association for Equality. And what he said was, and he's someone who focuses on men's and boys' issues, but he talks with people who focus on women's issues all the time, works with them a lot. And he always says, I always focus on what we have in common and not what's different, how we can make society better and not who's to blame for making society how it is. So simple but so effective. So instead of saying the judges are bad, how can we make the judges go for default shared parenting? The lawyers, how can we move the lawyers to collaborative and mediative law and get these cases out of family court? The psychologists, how can we educate the psychologists about this? How can we make things better instead of making things worse? So bear with me, trying to get to all these questions. There's so many comments, it's a little hard. Okay. So Jared Howard, don't they have more how to be a good mom classes than dad's classes? I'm not sure. I don't know about that. I say they should how to be a good parent, because the gender differences in breastfeeding and childbirth and pregnancy, but then how to be a good parent. While we do often see moms and dads do different roles in the house, I'll give a shout out to one of my favorite books about this, The Boy Crisis by Warren Farrell. Love it. I actually bought a copy for one of my ex-boyfriends. I loved it so much. You know, and he talks about how moms and dads normally parent differently. It's about being a good parent. And, you know, like I remember when we would get sex ed when I was like in 8th grade, they would separate the boys from the girls. And it's always like, we're in this together and we should be talking about the issues together and not having these crazy moms do this, dads do this kind of stuff, right? And that's so important. Is there should be parenting classes. I agree, there should be more mom and dad classes, or mommy and me. It should be parent and me, or mommy and daddy and me classes. And it's a real shame and a disgrace that in the United States, we still assume that the primary parent is the mom. And because the way, you know, our society is set up, parents don't get support. So a lot of times one parent is forced to stay home, and it's more often the mother, and that becomes the primary parent. And we don't think about how can we get both parents equally involved in the workforce and their kids' lives if that's what they want. I know so many women my age who are moms who had to drop out of the workforce, not because they think that's what's best for kids, but because they're like, we couldn't afford daycare and my job was inflexible. I have a friend who just gave birth. She's a school teacher and they don't have maternity leave. She gets no paid time off after having a baby. Like, this is insane. So we always have to think about the bigger picture when we talk about these issues. Deanne, what about courts allowing teenagers to choose what parent they want to live with? Of course, they tend to go towards the lenient parent. So NPO does not do a ton of research on this. but no child should be forced to choose to pick a parent. That causes grave psychic harm. They're often racked by guilt. You're right, sometimes they choose the more lenient parent, sometimes they choose the parent who brought them to court that day. Like I said, if there's a real issue with a parent being unfit, the courts need to address that, or some social service organization needs to address that. And in my mind, the goal always has to be, how do we get that parent fit again? How do we heal? How do we move forward? And right now it's, you're the good parent, you're the bad parent, or you're the better parent, you're the not better parent. You get everything, you get nothing. Forever. People change, people grow, people redeem themselves. And talking to kids, and I've talked to kids, and we don't talk about this enough, who were victims of really horrible abuse. And even in those cases, they said that being able to know that parent, and maybe they were, and in those cases, luckily they weren't alone with that parent, but they said how important it was for them to be able to make up their own mind, see the good and the bad, and not have that parent be some sort of ghost or monster out there. You know, I mean, kids can visit their parents in prison. So, you know. Gordon Boward, now one supported equal parenting. So now that's a national organization of women. So I'm going to give some breaking news to everybody. The National Organization of Women may or may not support shared parenting. Most feminists my age and younger don't really know what now is, except as a history lesson, and don't read Ms. Magazine. And I say this as someone who, one of my first acts as a teenager was to get the library to order Ms. Magazine, which they refused to do, saying girls just wanted to read teen magazines about fashion. And I got the magazine donated by a friend who paid for the subscription. But I don't read it anymore. So they're not this huge, massive organization. So focus on the positive, not the few people who are against it. And I know this because in Erasing Family, I actually got someone against shared parenting on camera to talk about why they're against it. And this was a law professor, I'm not going to say who she is. And I said, why are you against shared parenting? And she goes, my masseuse had shared parenting and she told me it was awful. Okay. Have you read any of the research about shared parenting? She goes, I don't have the time in the day to read the research. So I put that interview in the film, and it's no longer there, in part because people who watched the film who aren't aware of this debate were like, couldn't you get someone serious on the other side? I'm like, she's the most serious law professor of a very prestigious law school who's won a lot of awards, and that's the best they got. My masseuse didn't like it, so she has her masseuse saying, oh, I have equal shared parenting and I don't like it. Didn't talk to the kid, didn't talk to the other party. Let's not give them oxygen. Why do we talk about the negatives? It's the same as saying, I'm going to talk about the moon landing and I'm going to give equal time to the 5% of the people, or even better. When I teach a geology class, I'm going to give equal time to the people who believe the earth is flat. Let them talk their crazy theories. So Brian Dixon, is this just helpful for divorced parents? I was never married to my son's mother. Also, I was forced into a consent decree. How this helped me get out of this and get fair, more equal time? So shared parenting has to be not just for divorce and separation, but it should also be for unmarried couples. And unmarried couples should not be treated differently than married couples. And I think it's very backwards that the United States is doing this because, like it or not, most people aren't getting married before they have kids now. New reality. We can wring our hands about it, we can cry about it, or we can accept it. And I'm not saying that it's good or it's bad, but it's the reality that we live in. So I agree with you. And also people from other countries are like, what do you mean there's a difference? Like the US is way behind on this issue. So let's see. So Don Saxton and Jean Murray said, They're asking about the Erasing Family film. So you can go to the Erasing Family website, click on host a screening, and sign up to host a screening. It's super easy. It'll be available for community screenings after October 15th of this year. And you can host one, and if you can get 100 people under the age of 26 to show up, we will refund you your money because we want young people to see it. And you can show it at your state capitol. We can show it at and you can show it in bar associations, universities, high schools, anywhere. And you can contact us for more information. Dan Dory, for DV cases, what services would be offered to help abusers become healthy co-parents so family can transition into a healthy new dynamic? So this is it's a complicated question, but there are effective therapeutic interventions. Some of it is dealing with that person's own trauma, because if you're an abusive person, you most likely suffered abuse as a kid and you're repeating the behaviors that you learned, number one. Number two, that person has to want to be healed. That's the hard part. And what we can do to help that person heal is by showing that it's unacceptable to be an abusive person and start talking about it as an illness as opposed to a crime. And having really well-trained people who are able to present help, and also realizing this is a family dynamic. So in a lot of families, parent A beats parent B, who then beats the child, or parent A and parent B both beat the kids, or parent A beats parent B, who then beats parent A, who then beat the kids. There's a lot going on. And also, why did parent B go with parent A if they're abusive? Because if we remove this parent B who likes abusers is just going to find parent C who's a new abusive parent, probably a stepdad who's even worse for the kids. And then this other abusive parent who got kicked out is then going to find someone else, and the cycle repeats. So we have to look at this as a way to stop a cycle, how to stop trauma by teaching new skills. And what I'm also learning from people is that for a lot of people who have personality disorders, the solution, in part, is coaching with clear guidelines and not therapy. We often think that therapy is the solution, and I'm a firm personal believer in therapy. I'm on my 20th therapist. So I'm a firm believer in therapy, and I found one who's really good right now for me, and I encourage everyone to do therapy if they can, if they want to. But for a lot of people who have a personality disorder, who have anger management issues or abusive, what they really need is a coach that sets clear guidelines. So for example, you do these protocols, you get a reward, which is more time with your children. You don't do these, you don't get time with your kids. But it also has to be in a way, because sometimes when people are borderline, you say you could lose your children, that causes them to lash out more. So this is in its infancy. But what's exciting about coaching these sorts of programs is that they tend to be less expensive and more replicable than therapeutic interventions. Because good therapy, my therapist would say, it takes years of talk therapy to get to these realizations. So we need to find a way to make this affordable and more mass-produced, which is also getting people who have lesser qualifications to be there to help people going through trauma. So not everyone needs a PhD to be able to help people. So I'm just looking through more questions. So for people asking me affiliates, go to the National Parents Organization website and click on Start an Affiliate. Carlos Arias, can we do a screening on Facebook? No, it has to be in person. We can't release it online. So, and it needs to be on person too, the screening of a Erasing Family, because that's how you get people in the room. You bring in experts and you get people talking, and that's how the change begins to happen. So it'll eventually be online, but probably not until 2020. So community screening is where it's at. And also a screening in your state legislature. Lunchtime screening. Your state rep might not show up, but their staff will, especially if you give them a nice, yummy lunch. And then you have some experts talk to them. Harry Fletcher, Not addressing judge or psychological evaluation schemes, state child support systems, supervised visitation, mediators, corrupt divorce attorneys, etc. is an oversight, in my opinion. So I'm not saying that they shouldn't be addressed. National Parents Organization has me, Liana, a great board, lots of volunteers, but we can't do everything. And I think for too long, people said we need organizations that do everything. What we need is a coalition of organizations and groups that work together. And different organizations do different things. So for example, with my Erasing Family film, I said from the beginning, we are not getting in the support group business and supporting parents. We can help parents and give them advice and tips, but we're not going to start support groups for them. What we are going to do is provide very easy, simple resources for professionals, for judges, for lawyers, for politicians, and for kids. But there's no Erasing Family support group that you can go to, and there's no legal aid, right? And National Parents Organization focuses on legislative and court reform and academic research, changing public opinion. So it doesn't focus on getting everybody an attorney or helping people get through their cases. It can do a little of that, but that's not the focus. And also, you know, as we said, if you have default shared parenting, the need for these, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, child custody evaluators, and this whole system will be dismantled bit by bit. So the idea is that people will stop going to court to solve this, and if they can't solve it on their own, like in Sweden, you just sign a piece of paper and you're done. You mail it in, 25 cents for a stamp, whatever a stamp costs in Sweden. You get a mediator or a collaborative lawyer who's there to help and not to win, to help you. So it is part of the solution, but there is no magic bullet in any of this. We all need to be working on this. Like, we also need to be educating parents about this, educators, all of these communities to solve this problem, and we need to attack it from multiple angles. So what the National Parents Organization does is to have a laser focus on a few key areas that we are the best positioned to focus on. And that's why we have to work with other organizations who either have a similar focus or who are working on different things. But I will never say if we get default shared parenting passed in all 50 states, problem solved. No, the problem will be less than what it is now, significantly. We're going to be sending a powerful message, but there also needs to be other things going on as well. Lorena Cross, I get that this is a human rights issue. However, I do feel that there is sexism against fathers in the courtroom. What is the NPO stance in this instance? The NPO stance is that gender should never be a determination in a child custody case. A mother should not be punished for working outside of the home. A mother should not be punished because she's seen as crazy without any proof, which is often what mothers get blamed to be. And a father should not be presumed to be abusive or toxic just because he's a dad. And this is a great, and with default shared parenting, you will get more equal gender equality, true gender equality, which feminist and men's rights groups can agree on. We're all on the same page here. So this is wonderful. We all agree. What do we want? Gender equality. How do we get it? Default equal shared parenting is a first perfect step, because we're no longer saying mom gets the kids, not dad. We're saying parents have equal responsibilities and equal rights. And that should only be tampered with when one parent is proven to be unfit. That's proven to be unfit, and in that case, there should be help for that parent and not a punishment, right? So you have to be held responsible if you're abusive, but it does not mean thrown in jail and having a lifetime restraining order that you can never get out of, which I've seen lifetime restraining orders given to people because they yelled at someone on the phone. And it's like, a lifetime restraining order. You'll never see your kids ever again for 99 years. And you're like, Angela Peterson said dads in our states are the ones winning custody. That's another thing, we have to stop saying winning custody, because in family court, you never have a winner and a loser, you have two losers, and the biggest losers are the kids. Brandy Stone, how can we get more training for our court-appointed officials to see more than just physical child abuse? How can we change the training for the court-appointed judges, officials, blah, blah, like the parent personality disorders that reflect the child? I feel like these court-appointed officials are only trained in seeing the physical abuse, not the mental emotional abuse. How can we educate more on the psychological abuse? That's a good question, and I think by having symposiums for people, running classes for people, giving them research, beginning conversations, finding the lawyers who agree with you, because most people say lawyers are awful and evil. I come from a family of lawyers. I get it. I'm not going to argue with that. But what I will say, find the lawyers and the judges, especially retired judges, who see eye to eye with you and get them to be part of the change. And whenever you see a judge and a lawyer doing good, praise them. Give people a way out. It can't be always blame and hurt. Adam Jones, do you foresee a judiciary review committee being needed to ensure judges apply new legislation as intended? I'm not sure if necessarily that's the way, but one problem is that there's very little, if any, oversight in family court, and you can only appeal, and it's very expensive to appeal if there's a technicality, and judges often don't have to cite this. So sometimes a simple change in law that's very effective is if you don't give 50-50 custody, you have to explain why. Which forces people to think if there really is a reason with scientific evidence as to why, right? NPO volunteer form seems to be broken. Harry Fletcher, I'm so sorry about that. Send me an email. I'm going to send my email right now. So it's Ginger Gentile. It's Ginger Gentile at nationalparentsorganization.org. I'm gonna look at this right now and see. So sorry guys, I'm just gonna see why if the form is broken. It could be that so many people are signing up. So start an affiliate in your state. That seems to be working. Okay, hold on. So, and this is the form that is working. Jean Murray, lots of people talking about parental alienation. Sadly, not many people are helping the victims. But let's focus on the people who are helping the victims, Janine, right? So we have National Parents Organization. We have a ton of great groups out there and support groups out there. There's always more support, and I always encourage people, Google what's in your area. I once had someone say, I'm in northern New Jersey, I need a support group. I'm like, where are you? Trenton. I'm like, I know there's a support group in Trenton. Why don't you know this? Did you Google it? No. There is support out there if you know where to look. So I think those are all the questions. Anybody else who has a question? Otherwise, I'll be ending this chat, and this chat will be, oh, one quick thing. If you haven't already, like the National Parents Organization page, and then share this video on your own page or any group that you're in. I should have said that in the beginning. Like the National Parents page, get your friends to like our page, comment on our post and share our post. That's something simple that everybody can do. Share, if you're in a group that deals with this topic, share this video there. You can share this video and embed it anywhere. You don't have to ask my permission, okay? It's open to the public. And I hope that you sign up to start an affiliate and be on the lookout for our report card September 17th. And we want people to be doing actions on this report card. So even if you're not an NPO affiliate, you can still, with your group, do this. So any other questions? Will we be doing a live video again anytime soon? Maybe next week. We will send out an announcement before we do it, or maybe in 2 weeks. And we'll be doing more as the fall progresses. And probably we'll be doing some videos, especially about the report card release. So thank you so much. If you have the time and the ability, please sign up to be an affiliate. You can also sign up to be a volunteer or join an affiliate in your state. And as I said, if you said, I really want to start a chapter in my state, but I don't want to be the chair, you can always sign up to be the chair. And then your first course of action can be to find a replacement. And then you can be vice president, women's outreach, legislative outreach, or a volunteer. But we need someone on the ground to do that because we don't have the staff at NPO to set up chapters on our own. So has everyone liked the page? Has everyone liked the National Parents Organization page? Give me a little thumbs up if you have. And if you haven't, like our page right now. Harry Fletcher, have you liked the page? Adam Jones, Brandy Stone. So not just liking the chat. Make sure you like the National Parents Organization page. Janine Murray, Diane Donley, have you liked the National Parents Organization page? Carlos Arias, Karen, Gordon Boward, Albert Kiman. So just go to the National Parents Organization page and make sure you like the page. Then in a few minutes, this video will be Lindsay Ann, make sure you like our page. Angela Peterson, like our page. Seeing some names here. Gina Indelcato, like our page. Wendy Perry, Jared Howard, Deanne, like our page. Like it, like it, like it. Tony Halsey, like our page. Great. I'm seeing a lot of likes. Oh, wonderful. Great. And then this video will be up in a second. And if you can't, you can share it right now. So I will, hold on. So I can't do it, unfortunately. So I'm just going to share. So here's the link right now in the bottom. You can click to it. It should be pretty obvious, but I know sometimes people don't know how. This is our Facebook page, so you can like that. And if you go, let's see if I can get this out. I'll show you how to like the video. Let's see if this is right here. Hold on. So all you have to do is copy this URL right here into your timeline. And what this will do is it will automatically share the video on your timeline. You can also send it as a private message to your friends. Get them to share it. You see that video right there of me with my hand up? Share that video on your page. Who's sharing it right now? Diane Donley, can you share it? Karen Eames, can you share it? Share the video link. Carlos, Noreen, Corrine, Brandy Stone. Oh, thank you, Brandy. That's so sweet. I love you. Corrine Featherforth, if you could share this video on your page. Adam Jones, Harry, Brandy, share the video. So share that video link I just said onto your own Facebook page. After I close this chat, which I'm closing it right now, the video will be available to share in a few minutes. So thank you so much. Remember, sign up to be an affiliate. We are going to give our affiliates so much support this year. We're going to build on successes. 2020 is going to be a year of victory for the shared parenting movement. I can feel it, but it's not only I can feel it, I and so many other people are working towards this. We are going to see change. The foundation, the hard work has been done. We just have to harvest the seeds that have been planted of healthier outcomes for our children. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful night. Bye.